A popular subgenre of the gangster slash criminal film is the one where you have a big heist committed by a large group of criminals. And in this popular subgenre, very popular especially from the late 1950s on, usually you find the following features. You find that the film is more about camaraderie than criminality. The friendship, the harmony, the mutual support in this group. You also find that criminals are depicted in a positive fashion, and the channel for the empathy of the spectators emphasizes the professional values of the criminals. That is to say, even though the people committing the heist are criminals, they bring to criminality a level of professional ethics that you only see in the managerial levels of big corporations. They're specialists, each in their own field, right? The best at handling explosives, the best driver, the best at stealing, at hacking into a system or turning off alarm systems, etc. And their ethics comes through in terms of their commitment to the heist. And usually during the story, you find a scene where, or multiple scenes, where the criminals will be discussing what they're going to do with the money, and their dreams are the dreams of regular people, right? House, cars, traveling, a family, maybe some kind of business, in this case, producing films, for example. And therefore, you, as a spectator, are not seeing criminals that exist solely on the fringes of society. You see people whose skills, for some reason, never produced success in a conventional fashion for these people. Whether it's their fault or society's fault, it depends on the film. But then you can see how, once they get what they wanted, they're not going to continue and do other crimes. They'll just be integrated into societies, and their strong ethical values will make them good citizens, good husbands, good fathers. Okay? Now, I've selected to represent this genre one of the most outrageous examples and early examples that you can find, which is the original Ocean's 11, directed by Louis Milestone, who was an Eastern European director who had started his career in the late 1920s and was active through the 30s and 40s more than in later times. In fact, early on in his career, he won the Oscar for Best Director twice. So, as you can expect, this film has incredible cinematography, and I've prepared a selection of frames this time, not so much to talk about the story, because the story is very simple. It's the story of 11 people. Those are Ocean's 11, Ocean being the last name of Denny Ocean, who was a sergeant in the 82nd Airport Division. So Danny calls in a bunch of his military friends. They reunite to execute this brilliant heist. Their goal is to rob 5 casinos in Las Vegas, and you'll see in the film a very different Las Vegas, really an outpost in the desert with a few hotels and casinos. Is I don't know, a tenth of what Las Vegas is today, like that you see here. So they do this, they execute this big heist, but then they're found out, not by the police, by another strange character, a former mobster by the name of Duke Santos, who strikes a deal with the casino owners. If he's able to recover the money, he'll get 30% of the money recovered. Then he tries to strike a deal with the criminals once he has identified them. If you give me 50% of the money, I will not report you to the police. Before the criminals can be arrested or before this deal can be negotiated, the money is lost. And I'll tell you how it is lost. So, a very simple story. You see here the traditional three-act plot from the Hollywood industry is very much respected, one of the variations of this. So the first part is preparing for the heist, putting together the gang. So they're getting together from different places, and you can define that part pursuing the money. In fact, that first part is a little more than a third of the film. The second part is executing the heist. They're working together, they're collaborating, and they're getting the money. The last part is dealing with the aftermath, and they're all shot in different styles. So in a way, the last part feels like a different episode really, or a different film altogether, because it's long, it's prolonged. In some ways, suffering the consequences, even though there are no big morals in the film, warring together because they're still a group. They're still keeping a tight relation with each other, and they're losing the money. The characters are a gang of top specialists, right? They all served in this famous unit of the American Army in World War II. The film takes place in 1960. These people were together for the famous Battle of the Bulge, or the Battle of the Ardennes, December into 1944 into January, the last big offensive by Hitler's army, the last big push trying to push back the Allies in northern France and Belgium. And these people are brave veterans. They fought together. They clearly had skills, but for some reason they didn't become successful in regular society, or not as successful as their lifestyle, the lifestyle they want to support, would allow. So their top specialists, for example, Tony is a master electrician. This is the person who will disable the alarm system and allow for the doors, of the back doors to open so that they can go in and get the money. Of course, they're veterans who have courage and determination because they've been in the battlefield. They want this heist to be like a military operation with the same kind of precision. Then the vibe of the film is quite different. It's not as rigid. A possible theme that is very underdeveloped in this film, but that you find in other similar films, is the theme of wasted talent, and I intentionally recycled a line from A Bronx Tale, right? That is one of the themes, whereby Lorenzo, Calogero's father, always talks about wasted talent. Talent is wasted if you don't do the right thing. Wasted talent in terms of, so if these people were so good, why couldn't they, at the end of the war, find their path in society? And there are other books and films where you find that the story that is typical of even more contemporary films of soldiers and officers not being able to re-enter society after the war, because in the war they had an important role, and in society their service was not appreciated, considered, and therefore they couldn't fit into regular society. In this film, maybe this is implied, but certainly doesn't come through in any strong way. And clearly, discipline is one of the strongest values in this group, and even the person who is backing up financially, they have a financial supporter, somebody who's putting in the money to mount or the heist, is constantly complaining about the lack of discipline, if people are not showing up on time, for example, for a meeting. So you find this represented again on the positive side of the representation of criminals. And they have professional ethics, strong personal values. Teamwork is, of course, a strong theme, but they support each other even outside of the context of the heist. They care for each other. And organization is, or I could have put organized collaboration. I use organization because that's one of the key words in the script, can be found there. And it's something, again, that you find then in multiple films. I suggested for reference, if you have a chance, that you watch the original Thomas Crown Affair, another film that was remade. In this case, the 1968 film is far superior to the 1999 remake with Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo. Whereas for Ocean's 11 the original Ocean's 11 is in many ways a failed film, a bizarre film in terms of the development of the story and the characters, still strong from the cinematic point of view, well made. The 2001 version, which is not a remake, only some ideas and in part the style are kept. But the 2001 version, Ocean's 11, with 11 spelled out in letter, whereas in the title of this you have the numbers, with Steven Soderbergh, with George Clooney and Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, other famous actors. That's a good movie. Entertaining and very well done. Photography, cinematography, colors, everything is done well. It's not a great movie. It's not a great artistic film. That's well done. Now, the Thomas Crown Affair is another one where you find a criminal who's responsible for 2 bank robberies, although he's just masterminding the robberies, and his name is Thomas Crown. Thomas Crown is not a criminal. He's a very slick businessman who enjoys the more elegant things in life. He has a Rolls Royce, lives in a beautiful stone house, brick house in Boston. He's building another house on the beaches, maybe Cape Cod or near Boston somewhere. He has expensive toys. He plays golf. He plays polo. Has a doom buggy, for example. And there too, you will find in the script repeated occurrences of the word organized. And instead of military, because there is no military background for Thomas Crown, they use the word scientific, which is something you find in other films. That is to say, it has to be done precisely, accurately. And therefore, you cannot just take deviant criminals from the margins of society and execute this crime. You need professionals. And in this case, the character will articulate the motivation for his bank robberies as a game of him versus the system, right? Because he already has money. He's already a millionaire, although with the first bank robbery, he gets another 2.6 million. So they're in competition with the social system, but they're not against it. That is to say, they're ready to re-enter society. And the crime, the big crime, in this case, 2 big crimes, are just the exception, limited exceptions, after which they're ready to go by the rules. Okay? And in fact, it's a kind of game, and they use the verb play in that film. So, is there a moral view or a moralistic view in this case? Not really. In Ocean's 11, partially, right? We're getting used to seeing references to the Bible, to texts, narratives on the screen that highlight the moral connotations. In this case, at the end you have a funeral, and you have the word dust to dust, ashes to ashes. which are significant because the money that was hidden inside the coffin of one of the gang members, Tony the electrician, who died, the money is placed there so that they can bring it out of Las Vegas safely, because of course the police is controlling, right? It has roadblocks and they're checking the stations, etc. Their plan is their backup plan. Their plan B is to place all the money in this coffin because Tony's wife lives in San Francisco, so they imagine that the wife will want the body buried there. The wife decides to have the funeral there and to cremate the body of her former husband, and the money goes into ashes, right? So you can say that moralistically crime doesn't pay, so there is a certain respect of morality, but why doesn't it pay? It's not a punishment inflicted against them, it's more the issue of fate, destiny, playing against their plans, right? Because there is another dubious character, former mobster Duke Santos, who's there, and he sees them and understands what's going on, what has been going on, what's happened, and therefore there is a chain of events that will provoke the destruction of the money. The only money that is left is $10,000 that will go to the widow of Tony the electrician, and the widow says clearly twice that the money will go to his education. Well, there are two references, one by the widow, the other by Frank. So the money is put to good use, right? It's not used for immoral purposes, to drink, to spend time with doing things that are not so honest. And however, how thin the veneer of morality is to the story, to the tale, can be appreciated through the review of the New York Times, which is really astonishing right now, if you read it now 65 years later, because the New York Times critic is really angry, has this very strong criticism at the flippant, nonchalant treatment of crime in the film, right? This is the good American society saying, how can you make a film where criminals are seen as regular people, enjoying life, good guys, etc. There should be a moral lesson somewhere, right? And I included a couple of quotes. Even says it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing that they don't feel any remorse for what they've done. That's the way it is. That's towards the end of the review. No dishonor, because after all, these were soldiers. So you have soldiers turning into criminals? This is an attempt to undermine the moral fiber of American society. No moral misgivings, no sweat outside of the normal, natural tension that occurs while the crime is being done. After the whole thing is over, and a hijacker, this would be Duke Santos, moves in to grab the swag, there is no built-in implication that the boys, the soldiers, Ocean's 11, have done something wrong. Okay, so you can appreciate the novelty of this kind of representation of criminality based on the review, and this is not the only review within Variety, the industry source media platform, said something similar, actually. What ruined this film, what prevented this film from being a great film, was the fact that it was simply in production. It became a vehicle for star actors, because you have Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., who were actors and singers, big celebrities of the time. They appeared on TV, they appeared in theaters. While they were shooting this film, the three of them continued to offer concerts in Las Vegas. So they would shoot during the day and sing during the night, which is not ideal if you want to have people fresh in the morning on the stage, or if you have to shoot nocturnal scenes. And when you have too many celebrities, then they want the characters to play to their talents. They don't want to change to get into the character too much. So, for example, two of these big celebrities, Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr., had sing songs in the film. Not Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra had been an actor for longer, in bigger films, so he wanted to keep his career separate. But this film is almost a musical because you have 3 numbers, 3 songs by Dean Martin, 2 by Sammy Davis Jr., maybe 4 by Dean Martin actually. And these are the different acts. What's interesting, I want you now to focus on the style, the visual style, which is one of the greatest things, and also adds to the idea that this is not a traditional crime film, because think of Scarface, right? Black and white, strong contrast, a lot of darkness. But in here, even the way they shot the story, even the use of the colors, contributes to giving a different idea of crime, not as a sordid thing, but rather criminal life as something that can be enjoyed. And so through the different acts, the different parts of the film, you have slightly different styles. Act 1 is gathering, right? So the various characters are traveling to different places. There are small episodes with different variations on how they join the gang. And the colors, there is incredible consistency in the use of a neutral palette or pastel colors. That is to say, not vivid colors. And altogether, something that will inspire Steven Soderbergh for the 2001 version, a limited use of artificial lights. So often films have a lot of light on the actors. In here, much less. The pastel colors that are prevalent are white, but more than white, antique white, linen, cream, or even light yellow. But there is always, in the first act, orange. Variations of orange. There is pink, which is not too far from orange, but it's usually a dull pink, not a vivid pink. There is brick orange, salmon orange, but again, not too vivid, with some scenes in which the color orange is the only color that is more vivid, because this is hopeful. The first act is hopeful. They're about to get rich, right? They're about to turn their lives. So there is an element of color. Around that, because it's only some elements of orange, around that, a lot of gray or bluish gray, or grayish blue, black, periwinkle, which is lighter than lavender, right? Or close to royal blue. Act 2 is in Las Vegas, and therefore you have all the lights and the colors of a city such as Las Vegas. Neon signs, the slot machines. Act 3 is mostly inside various hotel rooms, the room with the owners of the casinos, the funeral parlor, the chapel, definitely more theatrical, and they go back to dull colors, similar to those in Act 1, but with less pink, orange, or red, and more darkness, okay? And you'll see I've selected about 80 frames, and you'll see the incredible consistency, and once you see it, it's one of those things that once you notice it, if you watch the film, you'll see how widespread the use of those colors are. Incredible animated sequence. For 1960, the animated sequence of the title is really great professional work. And again, it doesn't give you a sense of impending doom or sinful activities. It's joyous, right? Even the animated sequence is quite joyous. And you see the beginning. It's Christmas time, or around Christmas, before Christmas, in Beverly Hills. But look at all the colors. You have white, you have linen here, you have this kind of gray or grayish blue, and if it is not that, it's definitely black, or brown black. right? And even when you go inside, now most of the colors are pastel, right? You have beige in here, you have a lot of darker shades of white in the uniforms of this barber shop. And then, though, you have the orange red, the reddish orange of the chairs. You have the rusty red of the Christmas tree, right? And the rest, see the pants, see the other elements, the rest is black, right? And notice the limited amount of light. This scene is not bright, right? Look, only the first few feet receive plenty of light, but already in the back you have areas of shade. Look how dark it becomes by the time you get here. Imagine a set, imagine the kind of strong lights they use, and this is often overused, right? People in a car and you see driving in the dark and you see their faces brightly illuminated because they filled the interior of the car with light. Look at, this is Dennis Ocean, right? This is the sergeant who is the mastermind of the play. And look at the colors in here. And if you didn't identify the palette that is being used, you would find that the choice of this orange sweater is ridiculous. And in other ways, it is absolutely ridiculous. However, it is consistent. It's incredibly consistent with everything else. Because once again, you have some orange, although not very bright. You have light pink. You have this, again, grayish, bluish wall painting. You have the cream-colored doors and cabinet doors in the back. And the rest, the sweater of the other woman, the pants of the two men, the rest is black, right? So, and very little light, so there is a lot of harmony. If you had put more light in here, then it would have been ridiculous. Okay? But the way the light is used parsimoniously makes this harmonious from a chromatic point of view. The other thing that Soderbergh used, he didn't use much of the story, but some of the style. The other thing that was used in the original, and you find in the 2001 version, is the use of wide shot, right? Notice how wide this shot is. Not only it includes the two women, the two men, this is the lieutenant in the group of military soldiers that will reunite. Not only are they all included, but there is room for more, which is one way that a director has to tell the story without having to show the premises, right? To show the scene, to have shots of the scene. So you have a better idea not only of the physical background, but also of the narrative background. What are they doing, right? And even when you have a closer shot, you still have, look at how wide this is. It's also the ratio in the film that they used. Look how wide even this close shot is. And once again, what you have, orange here, orange in the sofa, some pink in the lamp behind, and then with very limited lighting, gray, blue, cream, and again, gray, blue, bluish gray, and ancient white or something like that, with some white in there, right? Here too, notice the only spot of color is the flowers. These are people coming from Hawaii. The flowers on that woman, pocket handkerchief, but otherwise only pastel colors or white. And this is Dean Martin, Sam, who's coming back from Hawaii to participate. That's Curly, another one of the 11. This is Roger going to Tony's widow, to Tony's former wife, to get information about him. And again, what do you have? You have this kind of, I think it's more pink than the light of the projector makes it appear, but it's very dull pink. Light, very light pink on her. Notice the color, very consistent with other scenes, the color of the paint. Some spots of colors in here, and otherwise dark gray or black. And here too, only the first part of the scene is illuminated. By the time you get to the window of the shop already, the light is insufficient to make it visible, right? At some point they go to a nightclub, Danny and Peter Lawford, whose name in the story is, well, it escapes me now. Jimmy, no, maybe. They go into a nightclub, but even for the setup shop where you see that it's a nightclub with burlesque shows, notice that the colors on the awning outside the shop, outside the nightclub, are two different shades of gray with black and white. And there are some lights, but not a lot of colors there. But what you notice is the red, the yellow. When you go inside, again, the wall is painted dark gray or with some blue perhaps. And the only spots of colors are yellow on this light and then some red here and there. But otherwise, it's all darker colors, but it's a neutral palette. And again, not a lot of light. It's not natural, right? It's not a natural light because it's too much light for an interior, the interior of a nightclub. But you can see how the light keeps the colors and the harmony of the colors balanced, right? Even when you have a closer shot of the three characters, they're trying to get Vince to join them. Again, very dark neutral colors with some orange or red in the back, in the tie, right? This is Frank, no, this is Tony, sorry, going to visit his son, his estranged son. Tony has been in prison for 4 or 5 years. And again, very neutral color. This time the prevailing color is brown, but the way it is treated, look, there is almost no reflection. There is only some light reflecting here. But otherwise, it's kept very neutral by keeping the lights low. Same thing when you go into a closer shot. But notice, again, even closer shots include a lot of scene, right? Look at how much of the scene is included, even in this closer shot, or in this one where Roger meets Tony outside of the same place. But again, even this place is variation of cream and yellowish light, and they are in gray or black. Tony goes to see the doctor will tell him that he's sick, and that's why he will join, because he wants to leave some money to his son. Again, look at the limited amount of light in the doctor's room, very limited. And of course, this makes you focus on the x-ray that shows that he has a heart problem. And otherwise, it's white for the doctor, white for the shirt, white or gray for the machinery in the back, for the curtains. And all the walls are variations on the same colors, right? So he will join the shot. You have this music number, incredible music number by Sammy Davis Jr. singing EO 11, which is a song about trying to make it in life either by gambling or by cheating. But notice again how much of the scene is illuminated, not too much. All the garbage trucks in the back are left in the darkness. The uniforms of the garbage men are more or less the same shade of the walls. And the only popping colors are the red cans, again, to suggest that there is some element of vitality, of hope, of energy, moving these characters forward, right? And he's singing, and even when he's singing, there isn't a lot of light on him, right? But you can see even better, appreciate even better the color of the uniform underneath a white shirt, sweater, right? And when Vince comes to recruit him to tell him we are putting together the gang. They've known each other. They're meeting again, but they've fought together, fought in the war together. The only element of color is the red tie worn by Vince, darkness in the back. This is Danny Ocean's wife. Again, limited amount of light through the window, very creamy colors throughout the film, the room, with the exception of a lamp that gives some red, a package that gives more red in there, and darker colors so that the harmony of the colors is not broken for the two of them. Danny talks to his wife, telling her, be ready in January, beginning of January, after, because the heist is to take place then at midnight of New Year's Eve. So be ready, because beginning of January we're going to Rio. We'll become a couple again, we'll spend more time together, and they have a difficult, strained relationship. But notice once again the color of the seats between red and pink, the colors of the walls, the treatment of the view from the window, and probably this was done in a studio, so this is not a true, a realistic view, a real view, but rather a picture, a photo, a fake background in a studio set, right? Same here, again, gray, cream, or yellow, but the only exception is the picture of the mother of the lieutenant who has to give money to her son, okay? Much of the same, right? And again, intentionally, the only colors that are different, red in the handkerchief used by Danny to change his voice, the bow on the package, some elements of the design of the curtain, right? Even when they're outside, notice the color of the swimming pool. Notice how they treated the light in here so that the color of the swimming pool is not bright light blue, but more like periwinkle or royal blue. And inside, another posh house, but light gray with the man wearing very dark suits. Again, gray, yellow, darkness. The only exception here is the color of the mother, but this would definitely be a royal blue, but not popping up much. Very good example of a wide shot. Now they're together. They're having the first full meeting with the entire gang. And notice these are friends having fun together. They're not even playing poker, right? Poker is associated with crime. They're playing gin, right? A family game. And of course they have pool game going, others are just drinking and chatting, right? It doesn't look like a bunch of criminals. But look once again at the colors, with the exception of red in here. Look at the harmony of the pastel colors. Even when it comes to a closer shot, you have the same harmony maintained. The last member of the gang comes in, Jackson, and look at the way they dressed him, right? Even when they have the map to show what they're going to do to rob these 5 casinos, look at the colors they've picked for the map. And they're discussing this, and there is some disagreement. Sam doesn't want to go, is against this plan. He thinks it's too risky, but then of course he'll come together with the others, and they're all like in agreement, in perfect agreement to do this thing. This is the beginning of the second act. So it starts with a shot of Las Vegas at night, and immediately you feel that the style has changed with all these lights and strong colors. Even when you have the garbage truck going to a hotel, you have so many other lights that the scene is more lively. Even as part of the plan, they're planning to explode one of the structures for the electric line. And then in the darkness, how will they find their way out of the hotels? They have fluorescent sprayed paint on the bottom of their shoes so that they can mark the steps to get out of the hotels. And here you see the colors popping out, right? Look in here. It is not too bright, but certainly brighter than it was earlier, right? The inside of this hotel. This time, you don't find the same kind of dull colors in the background, even though a lot of consistency with the past, for example, this kind of pink, but definitely a change compared to the first act. Even when Frank goes to inspect the alarm system, the light gives you a different sense of what is going on. It's supposed to create some level of tension, right? Again, very dull background, but altogether a lot more light than we had in Act 1. This is another music number, and one of the critics was reminding us that, well, you have Dean Martin singing a traditional song, you have his famous xylophone player, but at the same time rock is about to explode in America, and then you have this more traditional kind of music. They get together for another meeting, playing bowling, right? Camaraderie, not criminality, right? But this time, there is more light and a bit more colors. Here's another example. This is Danny walking into being discovered by his former mistress, but you can see how much more light there is in this scene, or even this time we're inside Danny's wife's apartment, even here, consistent with the rest, pink, etc., but much more light. Even when they go and place the explosive, there is more light, right? And of course the explosive is timed to explode 1 minute and 38 seconds after midnight, so that they can all do a coordinated sweep, enter the back of all the casinos and get the money. This is New Year's Eve, and a lot more colors in here with the prevalence of pink, consistent with the rest. Each hotel is marked by a different color. And of course, they have, well, there are minor setbacks. For example, they found this guard in front of a door. They need to get in to disable the alarm, and he will have to find a way to move it out, right? And every time you change casino, you find a frame telling you which casino it is with these big signs. And you need to have this light, because the key point is that they rob the casinos by taking the electricity out and plunging Las Vegas into darkness, as they will do in 2001, in the 2001 film. Okay, you have these big signs. In this case, it's the light of a car bringing more light, which means danger, because they could find out who it is. This is a cameo by Shirley MacLaine, who would become a great actress. Look at the variety of colors towards the end. This is really the countdown to midnight. This is yet another hotel, so different colors. And they also use close-ups of the balloons to fill the screen with colors in the second act. In the second act, to make it the style of the second act. See the bars? And then you see all of the signs of the hotels together, because the explosion will cause a loss of electricity, and therefore this is the same frame. Those signs are not shining bright any longer. This is the interior, the people inside the casinos, right? But they can see, they know where to go, because they've marked the entrance to the back offices where they keep the money with this fluorescent light that can be seen with special glasses. right? So they enter, and again, strong light, because this is the dramatic, the tense moment. And these are people counting the money. It looks like in 1960, they kept millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars behind a door like the one we have here, or even weaker. And again, the colors in the steps, when they have to retrace their steps. The money is placed in the garbage, the light comes back, and this is the beginning of the third act. This is when Duke Santos finds out that the casinos have been robbed and there is something going on, and he finds an opportunity to make some money. And we go back to the beginning almost, right? This is the office of the police, more light, but not too much. The sheriff, even this shot outside of the casino with the journalist, very limited light, right? There is a little more light in here. Now they're happy, they've taken the money, but Frank, who has a weak heart, will collapse and die. And we know this kind of scene, right? We've seen Scarface, we've seen on the floor with a similar shot, right? But is this the demonstration that crime doesn't pay? No, because he's died of a heart attack. The police will put roadblocks, but even here we go back to limited use of light. Look at this, he's inside a truck. Think of a similar shot for a modern film. There would be plenty of light, even though he's driving in the dark. This is, of course, the garbage dump, right, where they keep the money, waiting to get it out. The roadblock in the morning. It's morning, but cloudy, very limited use of color, and of course the police will tell the truck driver, get out of here, move along. We have to check other vehicles, right? And the money is safely stored in this garbage dump. This is the room where the casino owners are discussing a deal with Duke Santos. If he recovers the money, they'll give him 30%. And again, different background, this time green, right? Casino green, but not a lot of light, not a lot of contrast in the colors, right? This is Duke in his hotel room trying to investigate the robbery. This is him at the funeral parlor, and the funeral parlor we go back to the grays and blacks, right? In here we go back to plenty of orange because this is, and red because this is a dramatic moment. At this point, Duke has found out who it is, who made the robbery. He has put two and two together because he has seen all the guys, or several of the guys, so he understands why they were there, and he goes to them to discuss a deal. They go to hide the money in the coffin. The widow comes in, she's too poor, and therefore the best option is to have the funeral there. They call the American Legion. But even in this scene, look at the controlled use. It looks like a scene shot in a studio, and it wasn't, but it looks like it. They go into the funeral parlor, dressed soberly, and everyone comes in for the final confrontation. What is going to happen? They have proof that this is money from the casinos. And then they turn to each other because they realize that there is a noise in the background. What is this noise? It's the flame, because they're about to cremate, because once it is over, they'll push the coffin with the corpse into the crematorium and it will be burned. And once they realize that, it's done, it's over for them, right? And the very last scene is them. Now it's the middle of the day, the next day, and they're walking because it's over, right? They've lost all the money. First we see Sammy Davis Jr. by himself, and then we see all the others, and then we see the ending titles, the credits, the final